Okay, I wanted to talk about what's happened since the last video. Last video I did the flower. I'd put a little background in it so I could do that. And here I've got my bird, which I lifted out of that background, which was very light. I still recommend that you go around him with mist kit before you get started if you haven't done that. But because it's not that easy to lift him, but I managed to do it. When I lifted him though, just if you need to, I used the larger brush, and I used lots of water, and just gently brush the water and dab, brush the water and dab, brush the water and dabbed. So that's what I did with that. Then I came over here, of course I finished this branch and the other flowers that were popping forward. Then I went back into the background before that and added a little more color because I felt like it needed a little bit more. So our video now, I'm going to get started here in just a minute with the bird. I want to move this down though so you can see it a little bit better. This is what it should look like from the demo. So he's a cute little guy. And we need to get him painted. So first thing I did, like I said, was I put a damp background around the center because I don't want those feathers to be harsh looking. I want them to be soft. So I've got them soft around here. And I'm going to start with some Quinacridone Gold. I want it to be kind of yellowish, especially over here. Got a little too much water in there. Not quite that yellowish. I'm losing my features that I drew in here because what I did was I took a piece of paper that I had practiced my background on, and pull it in a little bit here. Got a little too far over, and I lifted my bird out so that I wouldn't have to. I didn't want to white all the way around it, and I didn't want to have to paint the background again. So I just used this piece of paper that I already had somewhat of a background on it, just so it wouldn't be white there, and you'd have to figure out. It would be harder to see. Okay. This is lighter on this side, so I'm going to make that lighter yellow. Darker here. Then I'm going to go into my Quinacridone burnt orange, and I'm going to add a little bit of permanent rose to it, kind of spice it up a little bit. And you can use burnt sienna if you don't have Quinacridone burnt orange. This is just the very first stages of painting this. I got a little, wanted to leave that a little whiter there. since I lifted it, I've got a little color underneath it you won't have. But I just didn't want to start over again with the background. I already had to start over with a bird. Okay, and then add my cobalt blue. That's what I'm using. Light. Because we're, like I said, we're starting light. Now that little bit of permanent rose was to help keep this from getting green. Okay. All right, we'll let this dry and then I'll be back. Okay, my next thing is I mixed up a really dark gray, almost black, using my cobalt blue and sepia brown. Sepia is a wonderful color. I don't know what else on the palette would be a sepia brown, but this I believe is a Winsor Newton color. So if you can find something similar, if not the actual sepia brown, that would be great. And I'm going to put in these feathers here. Again, this is cobalt blue and sepia brown. The trick to getting it dark is just to use enough water to get it to mix, and so you're just using less water makes it darker. See, this is a little bit too dry, so I will wet my brush a little bit, just a tiny bit, because you don't want to lose that darkness. Now there'll be other places I use this. I'll use some down here. I will use it on the eyes and the beak. Soften this right here. Lost a little of the dark there, softening a little too much, or it just dried. It wasn't dark enough. Put it back in there. Same thing over here. I'm going to blend this in, soften it a little bit. I've just got water on my brush right now. Okay, I'm going to go back into my cobalt blue. Now this isn't a real dark blue. It's pretty light with darker blue highlights. So I wanted that soft, light color of blue underneath it. Depending on the way you did your background and what you want your final piece to look like, you determine how much detail you want in your painting. I'm sorry I stop in the middle of a sentence. It's something about painting that sometimes I will forget where I am if I keep talking. So I'm not very good at demonstrating for sure. I know some artists who can just demo away and talk and, you know, not that very much. It needs to be softer. I'm not one of them. Going to divide these videos up, and hopefully not one will be too long, but you see the gist. And so finish that, and then I'll be back. Okay, we're going to then go in here after I got all my blue in and soften those edges. You don't want this hard edge here. Okay. Oh, one of my lights burned out. Okay, and we'll have to get another one. Don't think I had quite enough dark here. And you've got dark down in here. So any of those places where you see the dark down in here, you know, you put it in there in little blob, like, because those are feathers, they're not solid. And then you soften it. Didn't have enough water on that. And I'm going to go in here and go over those and soften them. Sorry, this is going to have to be a lot faster and not quite as detailed as my other one. And the other one was a better painting too. This technology is not always a good thing. Okay, when you get that finished, we'll go to the next stage. Okay, next we're going to tackle that beak. Make sure you leave that light part on the beak, the highlight. It's hard to see in the photograph, but definitely, we just know there's a beak there because it's a bird, but what that beak ought to look like, we don't know that for sure. I mean, unless you know birds intimately. Some people do study them. Okay, and then I'm going to take dark. Oh, nope, that's wrong. That's down. I've got that drawn wrong. This comes down here, not there. I'll have to correct that. He sure looks grumpy, doesn't he? It's a darker color there, but it's not that color. If I can get it up, that's good enough. That'll do it. Okay. Look, it's a little more arched. I have it too. We'll come back to that. Put it in better. In the meantime. Okay. Need to have your drawing done correctly before you paint. Helps a lot. Okay, I'm going to do the eye. Making sure I leave that tiny little highlight in the eye. And on this side you have a kind of a hood. The highlight is different. It's kind of a half, kind of a hood looking over the eye, but it's, now normally I'd start on white paper instead of lifting this out, so I would have that would be whiter, but I will show you how to get back there. Okay, that's enough for this video. Okay, we are going to do the finer feathers on the chest. For that, use a little permanent rose mixed with your quinacridone burnt orange or burnt sienna. I don't want to get it too, I think I got a little too red. Yeah, add a little gold to it. If you get a little too red, you can tone it down with some yellow. Hopefully that's right. We'll see. Okay, what I want to do is those real, yeah, that's fine. Those real fine little feathers there. I'm using a rigger to do this. I'll have to put that mouth back in there. It's lighter there. So I'm blending that in. Again, you don't want it to be harsh looking, so I blend as I go. I want it to have some distinction though, or you won't be able to see the feathers. Riggers are nice little brushes. I use mine a lot. Okay, you get my drift with this. I'll be back with the next one. Okay, toward the bottom, you will notice that there's a little darker, and these feathers are a different shape. Again, I'll say again that, you know, this depends on how much detail you want to put in. You want to just suggest the bird lightly and go on about it, that's fine too. You know, I don't try to tell you how to paint. Now for the darker part of those feathers, I'm going to use the cobalt blue, because that will work on this. Well, you know what? I'm not liking that because the yellow is making it look a little green. So I'm going to have to go to sepia brown without the blue in it. Hopefully that'll work. Again, I'm going to go in there and do that, and then I'm going to soften it. I think when I soften it, I'll use a little stiffer brush though than a rigger. I really don't want a lot of hard edges here. And you're suggesting feathers, you don't have to paint every feather. Well, I'm not liking that particularly. Now for the other, I can go back into my, add a little sepia to my Quinacridone burnt orange, make it a little softer. And then as I go up here though, I'm noticing, and I'm going to take some of that out, it's too dark, I don't like it. And as I go up though, I notice that really some of it is just the darker of the same color, quinacridone. I am really not liking that. Let it dry too much and now I can't blend it. But, you know, that's okay. I can come back. You know, it's not the end of the painting. And that's what I kind of keep trying to get across, is that I'm coming back straight with the Quinacridone burnt orange, or like I said, either that or burnt sienna on top of that other, because I'm not crazy about it. And that's looking better. I like it better. And you want some of this because it's not so, you know, so many little lines. It's a little softer. Okay. And up here, I have a place where it's a little lighter. Left a little bit of that, but not enough. And then above that, it's a little darker. So I'm going to take my sepia and add it to my quinacridone mixture that I did the bird with, to darken a little bit. And then you've got this dark right here. That's what kind of gives him his frown. Still don't put that mouth back in, but it'll be okay. I'll get to it. And then there's this little light right here, and there's a little bit of darkness underneath there, but not like there is on the other side. It's just really dark right here. Kind of blends it into that beak. Okay, you start on that, and I'll get back with you. Okay, the very last thing you're going to do, I mean, you're going to do your legs, but you also want to put a little bit of detail, maybe in the blue, a bit more detail in the blue, like in right up here. Again, this is just the way I do things. Do it your way, but I like the detail. This is, again, a matter of personal opinion, how much you put in here, how much detail. Okay, and I would say just use the gray, the lighter version, meaning more water added to it, of the other gray to do the legs. I still haven't done that mouth, have I? So the gray that you use for here and here and here and here, the dark gray, add more water to it, lighten it considerably. And use the same gray to do the legs. Now they have a shadow on this side, so then you go back into your darker gray while it's still damp. So the gray with less water in it. A little bit of dark to it. Could have been a little darker yet. But so if you have any questions, please give me a call or go ahead and text me or whatever. Go ahead and put this back in here. Mr. Grumpy Pants. Usually I go up after I do that and go slightly under here. I want to lose my darkness. And then that's got a little bit, tiny little line right here that delineates the beak. Now I might go in there and darken that slightly right here when it's dry on both sides. But other than that, the bird is done. So happy painting.